Well, it's out. You ever had the experience that your favorite band had gone dark for a bit under a year, only to see them pop up with this fine gentleman, who plays music by rubbing glass shards against his face, and then wait a couple months and see that they've also got their hands on Tool's bassist and the director of Shrek, and the first thing you then say to yourself is, yeah, it sounds like something they'd do. Because I don't think I'm the only Death Grips fan that's been there.
Should the opportunity arise, vomit me, flies, vomit me, together and wise, several times. Should the opportunity arise, vomit me, flies, vomit me, vomit green,
The time period leading up to the year of the Snitch's release has been very interesting for me, to say the least, though with the album cover and the features list I was expecting something a lot more heavy and abrasive than what we got. Adamson, you know, the Shrek guy, he would come in at the start and say some important. Okay, so that sounds like a pretty neat idea for an album, right? Well, that's when the song starts to come out.
streaky, 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 streaky.
So as Death Grips began to drip feed us new songs, it became pretty clear that that wasn't what they had in mind at all. Year of the Snitch is a very difficult beast. It pulls from a wide variety of different sound styles, and while this concept may be a bit similar to Death Grips' previous album, Bottomless Pit, that's about where the similarities end. Whereas Bottomless Pit took all of the different song styles that Death Grips had up until that point and pulled them together through sheer glistening production quality, Year of the Snitch meanwhile manages to combine an even denser sound palette with the lo-fi production quality of the Money Store, and is pulling from such a wide and weird set of genres for its sound styles that it's surprising to hear it have any coherency at all. We very quickly go from a song like Death Grips is Online, which sounds like a very bizarre shoegaze song, to something like Linda's in Custody, which has this delicious, very lo-fi jazzy feel to it. While we can hear them incorporate elements of their side project The ILIs on cuts like Disappointed and Little Richard. And the song The Fear even has elements of Queen on it, of all things. All of this is excluding how something like Ha 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 and Shit Show are taking some of the most difficult and complex sound palettes that Death Grips have put up over the years, namely Moon and the Gabber EP, and giving them a fresh coat of paint. The whole thing is then wrapped up with these short instrumental tracks that make for plenty of interesting transitions that tie the whole thing together. Speaking of things that tie the whole thing together, you've probably noticed a bit of a theme regarding the album that I've mentioned in this video's title. Death Grips aren't exactly strangers to memes. Not only are their music videos and other types of presentation extremely mimetic, but a lot of quotes from their songs have become memes onto themselves, which have then taken on a life of their own. Okay, scratch that. Pretty much everything the group's ever done is turned into a meme. So naturally they've sampled a lot of their old quotes and put them on this thing to really embrace the memes. Adding to that, a lot of the new songs are as quotable as ever, which isn't exactly hindered by the fact that the songs haven't been this catchy and repetitive since Moon. Of course, this is ignoring just how mimetic a lot of their collaborations are, but I mean, you'd already figured that out, right? It's Shrek. The real meat of the memes can be found in all the little details of the album, like Riot rapping about Ownage in Ha Ha Ha, or name-dropping Dark Souls in Flies. You've already heard that. And this is all ignoring the title of Death Grips is Online, which was a meme the group created in order to generate hype for the new album. We can even hear this in some of the genres the album is taking influences from, such as the song Dilemma, which incidentally features Adamson, you know, the Shrek guy. The song has this very warm vintage synth that gives it a very nostalgic 80s type Hall & Oates feel. The point here being that it's the exact type of thing you'd make Vaporwave out of. And as for Adamson's input, he comes in at the start with a short monologue that has quite the film noir vibe to it. He very much has the voice of a toughened old private detective that's seen too much shit. So yeah, I guess that's two retro periods the song is taking cues from. Go figure. Of course, these are just two of the softer parts in this thing. The vast majority of the song is way more intense. It very much sounds like Riot is featuring on one of their ILI records. What I'm trying to say is that the album's pretty good. Originally, I wanted to end this video with a joke about how Anthony Fantano hadn't told me what my opinion on Year of the Snitch was supposed to be yet, but I somehow managed to take so long making this thing that his review came out before I'd uploaded. So instead I'll end it by saying this. I think the album's good, but personally it's been a bit too weird, even for a Clockwerk's album. I'm still a bit disappointed that the album doesn't sound like what I was imagining in my mind when I first saw the cover and heard of the collaborators. And even now that I'm warming up to it, I don't think it'll ever become a 9 for me like it did for Fantano. At the moment it's stuck somewhere between a 7 and an 8. But the more I've listened to it and let it stew in my mind, the more I've come to appreciate it and all the little details that keep popping up with every new listen. But really, isn't that what Death Grips is all about? Making weird and unique music that's very difficult to get into, but extremely rewarding once it finally clicks.